So Kathranne, I have known you for years now and so appreciative of our friendship and who you are and what your art is and does. And I feel like because I've written about it in the past for different reasons, that I know it somewhat well. Now that you are in a solo exhibit at Moberg, I am so excited to see all of these pieces in one space together. It's truly magnificent to me. And I just wanted to ask you a couple questions about just a couple of the pieces. And one of them is Son and Father. And so you talk a lot about the actual when it comes to tracing the outline of the figure. And repetition is a tool that you use, that you revere, and no one can miss this in this show. It's amazing. And I've seen people actually like lean in and just imagine the time spent to create these. And that's two things. Time passing is something that I feel like you are capturing, working toward exposing, as well as just repetition and drawing as a cumulative endeavor.
Right, and I think that feeling of time in the work comes from the repetition of the line and the like one at a timeness, right?
Right.
One line and another line, and the fact that I am present for each time that mark is made. Like, it's never taken for granted, right? That accumulation.
And the intentionality, just that focus.
Right.
Yeah.
And it comes from, it totally comes from my love of Mondrian, right? And his Pier and Ocean series, the paintings where he just took a vertical line and a horizontal line, and representing sort of the pier and the ocean,
right? And
they breathe, and it was this revelation for me of how those simple lines can demarcate space. Like all of a sudden, you put that one line on the page, and space appears on this flat piece of paper, and that's another thing, right, that never really escapes from my work is this recognition. I always want to bring people back to the fact that it's flat, that it's this piece of paper on which I am working. So even and that kind of tension too, right, shows up in the figures. So the figures are traced from life, right? Right. So. This is my husband lying on the sheet of paper.
Flat.
But the trace around the body reveals the contour, right? The three-dimensionality of it. It's the real body, it's the actual body. But this strange flatness does come out of that.
Well, and also as you're talking about Mondrian, and then I'm looking at specifically the figure of your husband and the way his hand is reaching across to the other panel to the figure of your son. And it also makes me think of a piece of work that you've been talking with me about for years, which is Caravaggio's Supper at Emmaus.
Yeah.
And it just strikes me that one of Christ's disciples, is kind of where this figure is, and he's holding out his hands. It's arm's length.
Right, the depth. Right. So, right.
Yeah.
When I saw Caravaggio's A Supper at Emmaus, it was like right after graduate school, and I was wandering through the galleries, and I think this is in the National Gallery in London, and feeling a little overwhelmed, right, by like all the narratives of these paintings, right? Like, yes, Christ is sitting at the table, and the pilgrims are coming. They're doing their pilgrimage, and it's the moment when they're realizing who they're sitting with. And I felt very distanced from the narratives, from those stories.
Right.
What I saw in that painting was the description of space. Right? I realized in that moment the construction that Caravaggio used. Right? The depth of the painting is this deep. Right? So, and that's something that I understood, and it gave me a way in. And so I feel like it's those kinds of formal issues for me feel, how can I say, it's like anyone has access to that.
Right.
It's egalitarian to me,
Yes.
that kind of, that way of looking and working. But yes, so I'm thinking here it's very purposeful, right, that it's a diptych, that they're separate, but that this hand reaches across, and that I left the decal edge, so you're aware of the separation between the two of them. It's and then here as well, like dividing the page up into the lower third, the middle, and the upper third, like foreground, middle ground, background, like all of these formal rules, right?
Yes.
That you are taught in school or that you notice in painting. And so leaving this, making another kind of decal edge, it's always like these interruptions, right, of the parts in the picture.
Yeah.